You did not stumble upon this message by accident. There are no coincidences in the divine economy of God's kingdom. Every moment of your life, every step you have taken, every season of waiting, and every period of apparent struggle has been carefully orchestrated. If you are watching this right now, it is because you were meant to. This is not for everyone. This is for those whose hearts resonate with a higher calling, for those who have felt the stirring of purpose deep within their spirit, and for those who have experienced the quiet yet undeniable pull of destiny. Your presence here is confirmation that you are on the threshold of a season designed by God Himself. You are chosen. You are set apart. You have been prepared even through trials and silence to step fully into what He has planned for you. It is important to acknowledge that being chosen often comes with a unique set of challenges. The feelings of rejection, confusion, and isolation that have touched your life are not indicators of failure or inadequacy. Rather, they are markers of divine selection. Those who are marked by God frequently experience life differently. While the world may not understand their journey, while peers may move in ways that seem more straightforward or conventional, those who carry the sign of the chosen one are walking a path that requires courage, persistence, and unwavering faith. The loneliness or misunderstanding you have faced is not a punishment. It is a positioning. It is a subtle yet profound way God has been shaping your character, refining your spirit, and aligning you with the higher purpose He has set aside for you. Every moment of discomfort, every season where doors seemed closed, and every period where your dreams appeared delayed has been an essential part of preparation. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to rise. The foundation for this calling is not merely an internal sense or emotional intuition, it is anchored in Scripture. Before you were formed in the womb, God knew you. Before you were born, He set you apart for His purposes. Jeremiah. Your life has been carefully written in the book of destiny, and His hand has been at work long before your conscious mind could recognize it. You are part of a royal priesthood, a holy nation chosen not because of human merit, but because of divine design. 1 Peter 2:9. Your existence is intentional, your life is strategic, and your journey is not random. Every struggle, every moment of waiting, every tear shed in silence has been part of a greater orchestration that will ultimately reveal God's glory through your story. This is not mere encouragement, it is truth. You are marked, you are called, and you are destined to fulfill a unique role in the tapestry of God's plan. As you listen to this message, consider it a mirror reflecting the divine signature upon your life. You have likely felt moments where your calling was questioned either by yourself, by others, or by circumstances that seemed insurmountable. The feeling of being different, the sense that you do not quite fit into the ordinary molds of society, is not a flaw but a sign of your separation for sacred purposes. The seasons of silence, the setbacks, the moments when doors appeared closed, all of these are not signs of denial but signals of divine preparation. God is aligning every element of your life for the exact moment when His favor will be revealed, when His purposes will converge, and when the fullness of your calling will be made manifest. This is a sacred alignment, one that requires your awareness, your readiness, and your faith to step into. It is no longer a time to wait passively. It is time to recognize that the universe is preparing to release what has already been decreed on your behalf. Now is the moment to respond not just passively, but boldly. If your spirit resonates with this message, let your response be tangible. Type 777 in the comments as a declaration of readiness. This simple act is more than a symbolic gesture. It is an affirmation of your alignment with God's purpose. It signals to your spirit, your mind, and even the heavens that you are prepared to receive the next level of blessing and responsibility. The number is significant. It represents divine perfection and completion, the readiness to move into what has been prepared from eternity. By declaring your readiness, you are opening your life to the active flow of God's favor, positioning yourself to fully embrace the spiritual, relational, and practical dimensions of the divine calling upon you. As you remain engaged with this message, understand that there is more ahead. At the end of this video, a special prayer awaits you, a prayer crafted to bring peace to your heart, clarity to your steps, and strength for the journey that lies ahead. This is not just another closing ritual, it is an intentional activation of your spirit, a declaration that you are aligned with God's will and a call to step fully into your divine purpose. By staying until the end, you are signaling your commitment to the path of the chosen, affirming that you are ready to move beyond understanding, beyond fear, and beyond the limitations of what you have experienced so far. This prayer will serve as both a confirmation and a catalyst, equipping you to embrace the fullness of the favor, influence, and destiny that has been set aside specifically for you. In this very moment, allow yourself to internalize the truth of who you are. A chosen vessel set apart for impact, aligned with a divine purpose that transcends the ordinary. Feel the stirring in your spirit, the subtle recognition that this calling is real and that the signs of your life's journey, both past and present, are orchestrated by a power greater than human comprehension. Know that the challenges you have faced were never in vain. Every trial, every moment of waiting, every tear and moment of isolation has been a preparation for the revelation of your true identity. You were chosen not for comfort, not for ease, but for significance. You were chosen to reflect God's glory, to walk in authority, and to leave an imprint on the world that is enduring and transformative. This is the invitation before you now to step into awareness, to recognize your calling, and to engage with your purpose actively. It is not enough to simply hear this message. It must resonate in your heart. It must stir your spirit, and it must move you toward alignment with the divine plan. By recognizing the unique design of your life, by understanding the divine orchestration behind every moment, and by declaring your readiness through acts of faith, you begin to participate in the unfolding of God's favor in tangible and powerful ways. This is not theoretical. This is a reality waiting for your full engagement. As you prepare to move forward, remember that being chosen is both an honor and a responsibility. It is an invitation to rise above mediocrity, to step into courage when the world expects compliance, and to walk with confidence when doubt surrounds you. It is a call to embody the principles of faith, obedience, and humility that make divine favor recognizable not just to yourself, but to all who witness the impact of your life. Your path is unique, your journey is sacred, and the time to acknowledge and act upon your calling is now. So, chosen one, as you continue through this message, hold on to the certainty that your life has been designed for purpose. Let this introduction serve as a reminder, a beacon, and a call to action. You are marked, you are chosen, and you are ready. Let your spirit respond, let your heart align, and let your faith rise. Type 777, declare your readiness, and prepare to step fully into the divine favor and calling that have been waiting for you. And stay until the end, because the prayer that follows will solidify what your spirit has already begun to recognize: the clarity, peace, and empowerment to walk in the fullness of God's design for your life. To understand God's favor is to step into a realm of divine provision that surpasses human comprehension. It is not something earned by striving, achieved through perfection, or gained by manipulating circumstances. Favor is a gift, an unmerited, gracious, and powerful force that God releases into the lives of those He has chosen. This is a foundational truth for anyone walking in purpose. No human merit can compel God's blessing. Favor is not transactional, it is relational, flowing from the goodness and sovereignty of God Himself. It is rooted in His love and His eternal plan for your life, and it manifests in ways that are both visible and unseen. To embrace favor is to acknowledge that your journey is not dictated by chance or by the limitations of the natural world. It is to recognize that the God who created the universe is actively working on your behalf, orchestrating circumstances, people, and opportunities to align with His divine purpose for you. Many people, however, misunderstand the nature of divine favor. They mistake it for luck, coincidence, or a momentary stroke of good fortune. Favor is none of these things. While the world may speak of luck as random, God's favor is deliberate, precise, and purposeful. It is not something that fluctuates based on mood, effort, or timing alone. Favor is always active, even in the seasons when it is not immediately visible. You may have experienced moments where blessings appeared delayed, where doors seemed closed, or where your efforts did not yield expected results. These moments are often misinterpreted as absence of favor. Yet the truth is that favor is at work behind the scenes. God's favor is like a river flowing beneath the surface of your life, moving powerfully even when you cannot see it. It is in the quiet, in the stillness, and in the unseen alignments of heaven that favor often does its most transformational work. Psalm 84:11 provides a vivid biblical illustration of this truth. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly. This verse establishes that favor is both a gift and a protection, a divine covering that shields, uplifts, and positions you for impact. Notice that the promise is not conditional on perfection or flawless living. It is promised to those who walk uprightly. Walking uprightly is not about being sinless. It is about maintaining faith integrity and alignment with God's principles. Favor accompanies a life that seeks God's heart, a life that trusts His guidance, and a life that remains steadfast in obedience even when the path is unclear. To walk in favor is to walk in alignment with the divine order, trusting that the unseen hand of God is working all things together for your good. Faith is the key that unlocks the manifestation of favor. Favor exists in both the spiritual and natural realms, but it often requires an active posture of belief to move from potential into reality. In other words, God's favor is present even before tangible results appear. Yet it will not fully operate in your life without your engagement through faith. Faith is the conduit through which divine favor flows into circumstances. It is not blind hope or passive waiting. It is confident trust in God's character, timing, and provision. When you act in faith, you position yourself to recognize and receive what God has already prepared. This is why so many biblical figures experienced favor even in extraordinary circumstances. Joseph in Egypt, Esther in the palace, and Daniel in Babylon all walked in faith, and through their alignment with God's will, favor manifested in their lives in ways that exceeded human understanding. The mechanics of favor are deliberate and purposeful. Consider how favor often appears at the intersection of timing, obedience, and alignment. It is rarely accidental. When the young David approached Goliath, his favor was not luck. It was the result of preparation, anointing, and divine alignment. Similarly, Esther's favor in the Persian palace was not random. It was strategically placed by God at the exact moment her nation faced danger. These stories reveal that favor is a multidimensional force impacting not only personal advancement but also spiritual purpose, relational influence, and generational impact. To walk in favor is to recognize that every blessing carries a ripple effect, and that the divine economy does not operate in isolation. Favor is never self-contained. It is always designed to manifest God's glory and extend His kingdom. Understanding favor also requires a shift in perception. It challenges the natural tendency to measure outcomes solely by human standards. Often, God's favor appears differently than we anticipate. It may not come as an immediate financial windfall, a public promotion, or an overt miracle. Favor frequently operates quietly, subtly, and progressively. It may appear as the right connection, the timely insight, a sudden breakthrough in thought, or even the endurance to overcome challenges without despair. The key is to cultivate spiritual awareness, to train your heart to discern the fingerprints of God even in the ordinary, and to respond with gratitude and faith. The more attuned you are to the ways favor manifests, the more effectively you can participate in it. This is why developing a kingdom mindset is crucial. It prepares you to see beyond the surface and recognize the active movement of God's hand in your life. Another critical aspect of favor is that it is designed for purpose, not mere personal gratification. Favor is not a license to pursue selfish ambition, to accumulate without responsibility, or to seek validation from the world. Rather, it is a tool that empowers you to fulfill God's assignments, impact lives, and reflect His character. The chosen one is entrusted with favor not for self-exaltation, but to serve a greater cause. This principle underscores the importance of spiritual maturity, humility, and obedience. Favor, when paired with faithfulness, multiplies exponentially. When misused or misunderstood, it may pass by unnoticed or fail to bear fruit. Therefore, receiving favor is not just about passive acceptance. It is an active choice to align your life with God's kingdom purposes, to walk uprightly, and to steward blessings in a way that honors the one who provides them. The interplay between faith and favor is also foundational to understanding the spiritual mechanics at work. Favor often precedes visible breakthrough. It exists in the unseen before it manifests in the natural. Your current circumstances may suggest limitation, lack, or delay. Yet, Faith enables you to see beyond the immediate and step into the reality that God has already set in motion. Hebrews 11 speaks of those who walked by faith, not by sight, recognizing that God's promises are certain, even when unfulfilled in the natural realm. Walking in favor requires the same courage, the willingness to move forward, to make decisions, and to maintain integrity even when results are not yet evident. Faith is the recognition that God is already at work, and favor is the divine response to that alignment of trust. To fully embrace God's favor, it is necessary to cultivate spiritual disciplines that reinforce alignment with His will. Prayer, worship, gratitude, and obedience act as catalysts that make you receptive to the flow of favor. Each act of faith, no matter how small, positions you to recognize opportunities that would otherwise go unnoticed. Favor often intersects with preparation. The skills you've honed, the experiences you've endured, and the relationships you've cultivated all serve as the groundwork for favor to manifest. By actively engaging in these disciplines, you position yourself as a vessel ready to receive, steward, and multiply the blessings God has intended for you. Finally, understanding God's favor is about perspective. It is about seeing your life through a divine lens rather than a natural one. It is about recognizing that the delays, denials, and challenges you have experienced were never obstacles to favor. They were integral parts of the journey that shaped you into a person capable of handling the blessings prepared for you. Favor is the evidence of God's attention, the proof that you are not overlooked, and the confirmation that your life carries significance far beyond what you may have imagined. When you walk in faith, gratitude, and obedience, favor will not just touch your life, it will transform it, positioning you for impact, blessing your family, and extending into your community in ways that glorify God. Favor is thus both a gift and a responsibility. It is a manifestation of God's goodness flowing into your life because of who He is, not because of what you have done. Yet it requires recognition, faith, and alignment to fully experience its power. To walk in favor is to live with expectation, to remain humble in success, and to serve with integrity. It is to understand that you are chosen and that every opportunity, every open door, and every divine encounter is part of a greater plan designed to fulfill your destiny. Recognizing God's favor in daily life begins with a conscious shift in awareness. Too often, we are so focused on what appears to be going wrong, delays, setbacks, disappointments, that we fail to notice the subtle yet powerful ways God is orchestrating blessings on our behalf. Favor is rarely flashy. It does not always arrive in the dramatic ways that human imagination anticipates. Instead, it often operates quietly, weaving through the ordinary rhythms of life, gently redirecting circumstances and aligning situations according to a divine plan. The first step to walking in this favor is awareness, understanding that nothing in your life is outside of God's attention. Each encounter, each opportunity, and even the circumstances that appear inconvenient or challenging may be part of a larger design. When you begin to recognize favor, your perception shifts from seeing only the obstacles to seeing the fingerprints of God in every detail. Many miss the evidence of favor because their eyes are fixed solely on the struggle. When you focus only on what is lacking, you can easily overlook the subtle interventions that God provides daily. These moments may seem ordinary, but they are deliberate manifestations of His care and provision. Consider the times when a job opportunity appeared unexpectedly, or when a conversation with a stranger provided exactly the guidance you needed at the perfect time. Think of the near misses, the accidents you avoided, the errors you sidestepped, the situations that could have gone wrong but did not. These are not coincidences. They are divine interventions that reveal God's favor. Favor often works in hidden ways, protecting, guiding, and opening doors before you even realize the need. Becoming sensitive to these signs requires a deliberate mindset of gratitude and attentiveness. The moment you begin to pause, reflect, and acknowledge the small blessings, you start cultivating an awareness that aligns your heart and mind with God's favor. Historical and biblical examples further illuminate the nature of subtle yet powerful favor. Take Esther, for instance. Her rise to the position of queen was not due to chance beauty alone or human strategy. It was her faithfulness, obedience, and alignment with God's timing that positioned her to save a nation. Every detail of her life leading up to that moment, her upbringing, her preparation, and even the people she encountered was carefully orchestrated by God. Similarly, Ruth's story demonstrates how favor operates in everyday acts of faithfulness. Ruth did not achieve prominence by sudden fortune. She quietly obeyed, worked diligently, and honored God in her actions. The seemingly mundane choices she made ultimately led to her inclusion in the lineage of kings. Both of these women exemplify the principle that favor is often activated through alignment, faith, and careful attention to God's timing, rather than through overt effort or human calculation. Recognizing favor in daily life also requires a shift in perspective regarding what it means to receive blessings. Favor is not earned through striving, manipulation, or coercion. It is activated through trust. Faith is the key that opens the door even before visible results appear. To walk in favor is to acknowledge that God's timing may differ from your expectations and that apparent delays are often periods of preparation rather than denial. The woman with the issue of blood in the Gospels serves as an exemplary illustration. For 12 years, she suffered, yet her persistent faith, her expectation, and her belief that touching the garment of Jesus would heal her positioned her to receive the blessing that was already on the way. She did not create the miracle by effort. She aligned herself in faith, and favor flowed naturally as a response. In the same way, your alignment, spiritual, emotional, and mental, prepares you to perceive and step into the favor that God has already decreed for your life. Awareness of favor is also cultivated through gratitude. When we deliberately pause to acknowledge what God has already done, we create space for His hand to move further. Gratitude shifts the atmosphere of our hearts and minds, turning the focus from lack to abundance, from fear to trust. Daily recognition of God's subtle workings, whether through protection, provision, or divine guidance, strengthens your sensitivity to favor. Acts of thanksgiving are not mere expressions of politeness. They are spiritual disciplines that actively prepare you to receive more. The habit of reflecting on the small victories, the narrowly avoided pitfalls, and the timely guidance you receive fosters an environment in which God's favor can operate freely. Favor also reveals itself in the alignment of relationships and opportunities. God often places key people in your life at precisely the right moment to provide guidance, protection, or an opening for advancement. These encounters are rarely random. Mentors, friends, colleagues, and even chance acquaintances can become conduits of divine favor when you recognize and embrace their role in your journey. Being aware of these alignments allows you to respond in ways that honor God and advance your purpose. When you act with integrity, diligence, and humility, you not only participate in the favor God is extending, but also multiply its impact in your life and the lives of others. Understanding how favor works requires patience and discernment. It is not about instant gratification or immediate results. Often favor unfolds incrementally, revealing itself through a series of aligned events that appear unremarkable individually, but collectively result in profound outcomes. The key is to maintain expectation even when the natural eye sees delay or limitation. Expectation is the posture of the heart that says, "I know God's favor is present, and I am ready to receive it." Expectation does not demand or manipulate. It trusts and aligns. Like Esther or Ruth, the chosen one remains faithful in the ordinary, trusting that God's timing and hand are perfect even when the results are not yet visible. Another dimension of recognizing favor is seeing it as a form of divine protection. God's favor is not limited to opportunities or blessings. It also shields and redirects. The avoided accident, the timely warning, the right advice at the right moment. These are all active forms of favor protecting you from harm. Often, protection is less obvious than provision, yet it is equally vital. By cultivating an awareness of these subtle workings, you begin to see life differently. You start to understand that God's favor surrounds you in ways you may have never imagined, from the small details of your day-to-day life to the larger patterns of your destiny. Ultimately, recognizing favor requires a holistic approach: faith to trust its presence, awareness to see it, gratitude to acknowledge it, and alignment to receive it. Favor is not just about blessings. It is about positioning, preparation, and transformation. Each encounter, each opportunity, and each circumstance becomes a vehicle through which God moves, shaping your destiny and preparing you for greater impact. By choosing to see favor in daily life, you develop a mindset of expectation and readiness, creating a life attuned to divine orchestration. You begin to walk not by sight, but by faith, trusting that the favor already assigned to you is active, powerful, and unstoppable. As you reflect on the examples of Esther, Ruth, and countless other faithful servants in Scripture, it becomes clear that favor is a lifelong posture, not a one-time event. It is cultivated through consistency and faith alignment with God's principles and attentiveness to His hand in everyday moments. By learning to recognize favor in daily life, you open the door to experience its full power. Favor that guides, protects, elevates, and multiplies. This is the essence of living as a chosen one, acknowledging that even in the ordinary, extraordinary blessings are unfolding and that each day provides opportunities to see, receive, and steward God's favor. Walking in faith is the gateway to experiencing God's favor in a tangible and transformative way. Favor, though ever present, is not automatically effective in your life unless activated through belief and expectation. Faith is the spiritual mechanism through which favor becomes visible, the invisible key that opens doors aligned with heaven's purposes. To step into favor requires more than mere hope or casual belief. It demands an intentional choice to trust God fully, even when circumstances seem uncertain or outcomes appear delayed. The act of faith is not about perfection, nor is it contingent upon having all the answers. Rather, it is a conscious decision to rely on God's wisdom, timing, and provision, understanding that the unseen hand of heaven is at work even when nothing seems to move in the natural. Faith operates as activation. Without it, favor may exist around you, but it will remain dormant, unseen, or unclaimed. Consider the woman with the issue of blood described in Matthew 9:21. For 12 long years, she suffered navigating a life filled with disappointment, rejection, and despair. Yet she did not rely on what she saw, what she felt, or what others told her. Instead, she chose faith. She recognized that the garment of Jesus held the power to transform her life, and her persistent belief moved heaven. Her story is not merely historical, it is a blueprint for how the chosen one today can step into favor. Faith is not passive. It requires action, approaching the divine, reaching toward the promises, and believing in the unseen realities that God has ordained. Closely intertwined with faith is the posture of expectation. Expectation is the internal alignment that positions you to receive the quiet conviction that God's promises are not just abstract truths, but deeply personal assurances. Faith opens the door, expectation keeps it wide open. Expectation is not arrogance or entitlement. It is a disciplined mindset that trusts God's timing and prepares the heart to recognize blessings when they arrive. The woman with the issue of blood did not merely believe she might be healed. Someday she acted in expectation, fully convinced that the healing she sought was both real and imminent. Expectation transforms ordinary moments into opportunities to experience favor. It shifts perception, allowing the chosen one to see beyond current circumstances and anticipate the fulfillment of God's promises. Walking in faith and expectation also requires spiritual preparedness. Just as a vessel must be clean and intact to hold water, the heart, mind, and environment of the chosen one must be prepared to receive favor fully. Spiritual preparedness involves cultivating a posture of obedience, humility, and attentiveness to God's voice. It is a conscious effort to align thoughts, words, and actions with the principles of the kingdom. Like the woman who reached for Jesus' garment, your heart must be positioned in readiness to touch, to receive, and to respond. The preparation of the heart and mind is essential because favor will not be fully realized in a vessel unready to contain it. Every thought, decision, and attitude either facilitates or hinders the flow of divine blessing. Faith also demands consistency. The process of stepping into favor is rarely instantaneous. It often requires perseverance through seasons of waiting. While the natural eye may perceive delay, God's timing is perfect, and each moment of apparent pause is part of divine alignment. Expectation sustained through patience ensures that you do not become discouraged when progress seems slow. The woman with the issue of blood exemplified the power of persistence. Her 12 years of suffering did not negate her expectation or diminish her faith. In fact, the longevity of her perseverance became a testimony of her steadfastness and heightened her readiness for the miraculous release of favor. In your own life, every period of waiting can be a period of preparation, strengthening faith, deepening reliance on God, and amplifying the ultimate impact of favor when it arrives. Another key aspect of walking in faith and expectation is recognizing that favor often manifests through subtle, strategic interventions rather than overt displays. Just as the woman's healing was activated by touching the garment, many blessings arrive in ways that require spiritual sensitivity to perceive. You must cultivate awareness of God's movements in ordinary circumstances, timely guidance from a friend, the right opportunity at the precise moment, provision that seems to appear out of nowhere. These are the manifestations of favor in the natural, unlocked by faith and recognized through expectation. Being attuned to these signals requires disciplined prayer and a mindset that anticipates God's goodness in every detail of life. Faith also carries the power to influence spiritual environments. Expectation coupled with trust creates an atmosphere conducive to divine intervention. When you walk in faith, you are not merely waiting for favor to arrive, you are actively participating in its release. Your words, prayers, and confident posture shape your surroundings and draw the attention of heaven. Just as the woman's faith literally moved Jesus to act, your trust in God moves spiritual forces into alignment with His promises for your life. The chosen one who exercises faith with expectation is not passive. They are co-laborers with God, stepping boldly into the flow of favor that has already been established. Moreover, faith and expectation cultivate resilience against doubt and discouragement. Even when circumstances seem contradictory to God's promises, trust and expectation anchor the soul in certainty. The path of the chosen one is often marked by trials, opposition, and delays. Yet faith provides stability and expectation provides vision. Together, they prevent fear and anxiety from displacing divine assurance. They enable the believer to move forward confidently, understanding that unseen realities are working for their good, and that every challenge is part of the orchestration of favor. The practice of expectation also transforms how you live daily. When you anticipate favor, your actions, speech, and mindset align with the belief that God is already at work. You begin to speak positively over your life, to make decisions with confidence, and to approach each situation with a posture of readiness rather than hesitation. This active engagement with divine favor amplifies its effects and positions you to receive more. As Jesus taught in Matthew 9:21, the woman's faith was not abstract. It was expressed through deliberate action. Similarly, your life must reflect faith that is tangible, an expectation that is operationalized in the choices you make each day. Faith and expectation also create synergy with prayer. When you pray in faith, believing that God hears and will act, your petitions align with His will and the favor of heaven is released. Expectation intensifies prayer, making it both confident and anticipatory. Prayer in this posture is not merely a ritual. It becomes an engine of divine alignment, opening doors, shifting situations, and activating opportunities that are preordained but dormant. The combined power of faith, expectation, and prayer becomes a catalyst for supernatural breakthroughs, positioning the chosen one to step fully into God's favor. In essence, walking in faith and expectation is both a mindset and a lifestyle. It requires a conscious choice to trust God even in uncertainty, to anticipate His promises even when they are unseen, and to align one's heart and actions with His will. Faith opens the door. Expectation keeps it open and prepares the vessel to receive favor fully. The woman with the issue of blood illustrates the principle perfectly. Persistent faith paired with unwavering expectation moved heaven, activated provision, and brought about a miraculous transformation. In your own life, stepping into favor will require the same combination of trust, awareness, and anticipation. Finally, the chosen one must recognize that favor flows naturally when faith and expectation are exercised consistently. This is not about striving or forcing outcomes, but about aligning daily life with the rhythm of heaven, remaining steadfast in belief, and preparing spiritually, emotionally, and mentally to receive. Each day provides opportunities to practice faith, to cultivate expectation, and to act with readiness, creating the conditions for God's favor to manifest abundantly. By embracing this posture, the chosen one does not merely await blessings, but actively participates in their unfolding, walking boldly in the reality of divine favor, confident that every promise God has spoken is personal, imminent, and unstoppable. Walking in the favor of God is never separate from the twin pillars of obedience and humility. These are not optional attributes or mere spiritual ideals. They are practical foundations that allow the blessings, provisions, and opportunities of heaven to flow freely into your life. Obedience is the conduit through which divine favor travels, and humility is the fertile soil where favor takes root and multiplies. When these elements combine, the life of the chosen one becomes a living testimony to the goodness, faithfulness, and power of God. Obedience is more than simply following rules or fulfilling religious rituals. It is an alignment of both heart and action with God's will. It is the conscious choice to prioritize divine instruction above personal desire, cultural norms, or the opinions of others. Consider Daniel, who, even in a hostile and foreign environment, refused to defile himself with the king's food. His obedience was not passive compliance, but a deliberate, costly stand for God's standards. Through this steadfast commitment, Daniel experienced favor, promotion, and protection beyond human comprehension. His life demonstrates that obedience positions the chosen one to receive supernatural assistance, guidance, and opportunities that would otherwise remain inaccessible. Obedience is the signal to heaven that you are ready to carry responsibility, influence, and blessing. Obedience extends beyond visible actions to encompass attitude, speech, and the choices made in moments of trial. The Apostle Paul and Silas in Acts 16 exemplify this truth. While imprisoned, beaten, and bound in chains, they did not succumb to despair or resentment. Instead, they worshipped and prayed, maintaining a posture of faithfulness and obedience to God even in adverse circumstances. Their response did not merely honor God, it activated supernatural intervention, resulting in an earthquake that opened prison doors and freed not only them but their fellow prisoners. The lesson here is clear. Obedience is never in vain. When you align your life consistently with God's purposes, favor does not merely arrive. It manifests in ways that alter your circumstances, protect you from harm, and position you for divine elevation. Humility is the complementary foundation that ensures favor remains sustainable. While obedience positions the chosen one to receive, humility ensures that the blessings flow without pride, entitlement, or misalignment. Humility is the acknowledgement that all favor originates from God, not from personal merit, intellect, or effort. Psalm 25:9 reminds us that God leads the humble in what is right and teaches them His way. The humble do not compete for attention or manipulate circumstances to achieve success. Instead, they yield to divine instruction, recognizing that every opportunity, every breakthrough, and every favor is a gift from the Most High. Without humility, favor can be squandered, misunderstood, or misused. With humility, it multiplies and produces lasting impact. Matthew 23:12 emphasizes that whoever exalts themselves will be humbled, but whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. The chosen one who practices humility does not shrink away from responsibility or hide their gifts. Rather, they step forward with quiet confidence, fully aware that the source of their elevation is God. This awareness transforms the way favor is experienced. It shifts the focus from personal gain to kingdom purpose, from accumulation to distribution, from self-promotion to service. Favor grows not only because of obedience, but because it is stewarded with the right heart. A heart attuned to God's intentions, sensitive to others, and anchored in reverence. Gratitude is another critical dimension that intertwines with obedience and humility, acting as a spiritual discipline that attracts favor and shifts atmospheres. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 commands us to give thanks in all circumstances, acknowledging that this is God's will for us. Gratitude is not a passive acknowledgement of blessings. It is an active declaration of trust in God's goodness, even in the midst of challenges. Psalm 104 teaches that entering God's courts with thanksgiving invites His presence and aligns your spirit with divine favor. When the chosen one cultivates gratitude daily, even for the smallest acts of provision or unseen protections, it produces an environment where favor can flow without hindrance. Gratitude transforms perception, allowing you to recognize divine intervention in places where doubt or distraction might otherwise obscure it. Obedience, humility, and gratitude work synergistically to cultivate a life saturated with favor. Obedience ensures alignment with God's will. Humility keeps the heart receptive, and gratitude amplifies awareness of His ongoing work. The chosen one who walks in this triad creates a spiritual posture that is irresistible to divine blessing. Every act of obedience, every humble acknowledgement of God's role, and every expression of gratitude opens the channels for favor to not only arrive, but to multiply. Favor becomes less about what is received and more about how it transforms character, relationships, and influence. A key illustration of these principles can be seen in the life of Joseph, a man whose obedience, humility, and gratitude positioned him to become the prime minister of Egypt. Despite being sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned, Joseph never abandoned faith or yielded to bitterness. He remained obedient to God's guidance, acted with humility in all circumstances, and expressed gratitude for the opportunities to serve faithfully even in hardship. As a result, divine favor elevated him, not only restoring his life, but also saving nations from famine. Joseph's story shows that obedience and humility are not passive qualities. They are active forces that shape destiny and unlock favor with long-reaching effects. It is also essential to understand that favor, when grounded in obedience and humility, operates consistently even in seasons of waiting. Life will inevitably present trials, challenges, and seasons of apparent silence. However, the chosen one who remains steadfast in obedience, humble in perspective, and grateful in heart creates a spiritual climate where favor continues to function, often in unseen ways. These unseen acts of favor, protection, timing, provision may appear subtle, but are instrumental in positioning you for the fullness of God's promises. Habits of humility, prayer, and gratitude during quiet seasons ensure that when visible breakthroughs occur, the vessel is ready to handle the blessing with wisdom and discernment. Moreover, walking in humility and obedience allows the chosen one to recognize that favor is never solely for personal gain. It is always designed for a higher purpose to influence, bless, and impact others. Like Daniel, Joseph, and the Apostle Paul, the individual who walks in favor is not only elevated, but also becomes a conduit for blessing, protection, and guidance to others. This mindset transforms favor from being transactional to being relational and kingdom-oriented. The more you align your life with God's will through obedience and humility, the more your blessings overflow into your family, community, and the nations, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond personal benefit. Finally, gratitude ensures that favor is not taken for granted or misused. By recognizing the source of blessings and continually expressing thanks, the chosen one maintains a posture of receptivity and openness. Gratitude is the acknowledgement that every success, every opportunity, and every moment of favor is not owed, but given. It prevents arrogance, sustains perspective, and reinforces the spiritual principles that allow favor to flourish. The discipline of gratitude transforms ordinary life into a continuous experience of divine favor, ensuring that every day, every interaction, and every decision becomes an opportunity to reflect God's goodness and attract further blessings. In conclusion, obedience and humility are not merely spiritual ideals. They are practical foundations for walking in God's favor. Obedience aligns actions and attitudes with God's will, positioning the chosen one to receive supernatural assistance and opportunity. Humility recognizes God as the ultimate source of blessing, ensuring that favor is managed wisely and purposefully. Gratitude amplifies awareness of favor and shifts the atmosphere to welcome divine provision. Together, these principles create a life that is both prepared and receptive, where favor flows freely, multiplies, and impacts not only the chosen one, but everyone touched by their influence. Walking in obedience, practicing humility, and cultivating gratitude are daily choices. Choices that unlock the transformative power of God's favor and sustain it across all seasons of life, ultimately fulfilling the higher calling for which the chosen one was set apart. Walking in God's favor is not merely about receiving blessings. It is fundamentally about living in overflow and extending that abundance to others. True favor carries with it a divine responsibility, a mandate to act as a channel through which God's generosity flows. When blessings are hoarded, they stagnate. When they are shared, they multiply and impact the world in ways beyond human comprehension. Understanding this principle is essential for the chosen one, for the life marked by divine favor is never intended to exist in isolation. Rather, favor is designed to overflow, creating a ripple effect that touches families, communities, and even nations. Living in overflow begins with recognizing the nature of blessings as gifts from God, not as entitlements. Each provision, opportunity, and breakthrough carries a purpose that transcends personal satisfaction. When the chosen one receives, the first response should be gratitude, acknowledging that all favor originates from the Most High and is never earned through human effort alone. This posture of gratitude primes the heart for generosity because it shifts the focus from accumulation to purpose. Favor that is received without gratitude is like water held in a closed cup. It has the potential to nourish but remains stagnant. Favor received with a thankful heart becomes a river ready to water dry places and bring life where it is most needed. The biblical principle of giving as a pathway to multiplied favor is clearly articulated in Luke 6:38. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. This scripture reveals that generosity is not a transactional act. It is a spiritual law of multiplication. When the chosen one gives, whether it is resources, time, wisdom, or encouragement, they align themselves with God's economy, where the outflow becomes the instrument of inflow. Favor, therefore, is not only received passively, it is activated and amplified through acts of obedience that extend beyond the self. Living in overflow also requires a kingdom mindset. It is vital to understand that divine favor is never intended for selfish gain or personal indulgence alone. Favor is a tool, a conduit through which God's purposes on earth are advanced. Every blessing you receive carries an inherent responsibility to bless others, to uplift, to serve, and to create opportunities for life restoration and growth. The chosen one who embraces this mindset does not hoard wealth, influence, or opportunity for personal prestige. Instead, they become a vessel for kingdom impact. By intentionally looking for ways to release what has been entrusted to them, they participate in the divine rhythm of giving and receiving, of sowing and reaping, of blessing and being blessed. The principle of overflow is vividly illustrated through biblical examples. Consider the widow in 1 Kings chapter 17 who gave her last handful of flour to Elijah in faith, trusting that God would provide. Despite her scarcity, she obeyed, and God multiplied her provision, ensuring that she and her household had food for an extended period. This story demonstrates that favor responds to generosity even when it appears that giving might bring personal loss. The chosen one, like the widow, is called to act with faith, releasing resources in obedience and trust, knowing that God's provision is limitless and responsive to the posture of a generous heart. Generosity also extends beyond material provision. The chosen one's favor is meant to influence spiritual, emotional, and relational spheres. Sharing wisdom, offering encouragement, praying for others, and serving in humility are all forms of spiritual generosity that create an overflow of favor. As one gives in these areas, doors begin to open in unexpected ways, alliances form, and divine opportunities appear. The ripple effect of generosity ensures that favor is not static. It multiplies as it flows outward. A single act of selfless giving can touch countless lives, producing returns that are both tangible and eternal. Another important aspect of living in overflow is recognizing that challenges and opposition often accompany divine favor. Favor rarely arrives in isolation from responsibility. When the chosen one begins to walk in overflow, they will encounter spiritual resistance, tests of integrity, and situations that require discernment. These circumstances are not punishments. They are opportunities for growth, refinement, and preparation. Just as the rivers in nature gain strength and clarity by navigating obstacles, favor that flows through the chosen one gains resilience and depth when it is exercised under pressure. Generosity in these moments becomes an act of faith, demonstrating commitment not to immediate gain, but to God's long-term purposes. The act of giving itself is transformative. When the chosen one releases what they have received, they are participating in God's work, creating a spiritual atmosphere where miracles, favor, and provision multiply. The principle is simple. The more freely blessings are shared, the more room is made for additional favor to flow. This requires intentionality and discipline. Daily acts of generosity, even small ones, create habits that position the chosen one to consistently operate in overflow. These acts can include offering financial support to those in need, investing time in mentoring, praying for the lost, or simply speaking life over others' circumstances. Each act aligns the heart with God's purposes and establishes the chosen one as a conduit for multiplying favor. Furthermore, living in overflow transforms the chosen one's perspective on scarcity and abundance. Scarcity is a mindset that focuses on lack, competition, and fear of loss. Abundance, on the other hand, recognizes that God's resources are limitless and that every act of giving is an opportunity to partner with divine provision. The chosen one learns that giving does not deplete blessings. Rather, it positions them to receive in greater measure. This shift in perspective creates freedom, courage, and confidence, allowing the chosen one to operate without fear and to embrace the fullness of God's promises. Favor that is expressed through generosity also carries eternal impact. While material blessings may be temporary, the influence of selfless giving endures. It shapes character, strengthens communities, and leaves a legacy of faith and hope for future generations. By living in overflow, the chosen one becomes a beacon, a tangible demonstration of God's goodness in action. Others are drawn not merely to the blessings themselves, but to the source, the divine hand orchestrating provision through a willing vessel. This is the essence of kingdom-minded living, receiving favor to serve, loving abundantly, to glorify God, and living in such a way that the world witnesses His mercy, faithfulness, and power. Finally, it is crucial to understand that overflow and generosity are not only about what is given outwardly, but also about cultivating a heart that is perpetually receptive and responsive to God. The chosen one nurtures an attitude of expectation, trust, and readiness to act whenever an opportunity arises. This heart posture ensures that favor is not wasted, that it continues to expand, and that it achieves its full potential impact. When combined with obedience, humility, and gratitude, the foundations explored in previous sections, the practice of living in overflow completes the spiritual framework for walking fully in God's favor. In conclusion, living in overflow is a divine mandate for the chosen one. Blessings are never meant to be hoarded. They are designed to flow outward, touching lives, strengthening communities, and advancing God's purposes on earth. The biblical principle of Luke 6:38 demonstrates that giving initiates multiplication, revealing that favor operates most powerfully when released in alignment with kingdom principles. By embracing a kingdom mindset, the chosen one becomes a conduit of divine generosity, extending not only material blessings, but also spiritual, emotional, and relational favor. Through intentional acts of giving, faith in God's provision, and a posture of obedience and humility, the chosen one participates in the divine rhythm of blessing and multiplication. Living in overflow ensures that God's favor is not only received, but also transmitted, creating a legacy of impact, hope, and testimony that will resonate far beyond the individual, transforming families, communities, and generations to come. Walking in God's favor is a journey that carries both blessing and responsibility. And one undeniable reality is that favor often attracts resistance. The chosen one must understand that opposition is not an indicator of abandonment, but a sign of alignment with a divine purpose that matters. When God elevates a life, the spiritual realm responds, sometimes with doors opening, sometimes with adversaries appearing, and often with challenges that test endurance, faith, and character. This is a paradox of divine favor. While favor positions the chosen one for breakthrough, it simultaneously reveals the depth of faith and commitment required to steward that blessing effectively. Favor attracts resistance because it disrupts the status quo. It challenges environments, expectations, and even personal comfort zones. Those who operate under favor are not invisible. Their influence and potential provoke both admiration and envy, encouragement, and confrontation. Spiritual opposition manifests in many forms: delays that test patience, obstacles that require strategic wisdom, and adversaries, both visible and invisible, who attempt to hinder progress. These experiences are not meant to diminish the blessing, but to refine the chosen one, teaching discernment, resilience, and spiritual fortitude. Understanding this dynamic reframes adversity from a threat into an instrument of preparation, a necessary tension that strengthens character and reveals the power of God's presence in the midst of trials. Scriptural examples abound, illustrating that opposition is part of walking in favor. Nehemiah, for instance, was divinely appointed to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, a project that carried enormous spiritual and civic significance. Yet from the very outset, he encountered mockery, threats, and sabotage from adversaries intent on halting the work. Despite the formidable resistance, Nehemiah persevered, guided by prayer, discernment, and unwavering faith. The walls were completed not because opposition disappeared, but because divine favor empowered action in the face of adversity. This story highlights a crucial principle for the chosen one. Resistance does not negate favor. It is often proof that favor is active, moving, and impactful. Divine favor, therefore, must be understood as empowerment rather than mere comfort. Many expect favor to remove every hardship to make life smooth and effortless. Yet the truth is far richer. Favor equips the chosen one to endure trials, to navigate storms with wisdom, and to emerge from adversity stronger, more influential, and more aligned with God's purpose. Isaiah 54:17 reassures us that no weapon formed against the chosen one shall prosper. Yet it does not promise a life free from challenges. Rather, it guarantees protection, guidance, and divine authority over obstacles, turning opposition into a crucible where faith and character are tested and refined. Similarly, 2 Timothy 3:12 reminds us that persecution and trials often accompany godly living. Favor is not a shield from resistance, but a source of strength to navigate it victoriously. The chosen one's response to adversity becomes the measure of their stewardship over favor. Favor is about purpose over circumstance, about influence over comfort, about transformation over mere relief. The presence of challenges does not indicate a lack of divine alignment. It signals that what is being entrusted has weight, value, and eternal significance. Favor in adversity teaches the chosen one to rely on God rather than self, to walk with discernment, and to persevere with hope. This perspective transforms fear into faith, anxiety into action, and confusion into clarity. The trials themselves become a testimony, a living proof that favor is active, even when outcomes are delayed or unseen. One of the most profound lessons in navigating opposition is learning to recognize the invisible forces at work. Spiritual warfare often manifests in subtle, hidden ways. Delays in promotion, miscommunication, unexpected setbacks, or even personal doubts and fears. The chosen one must develop spiritual awareness, cultivating sensitivity to God's guidance while resisting the deception of discouragement. Persistent prayer, fasting, and meditative engagement with Scripture become essential tools for maintaining alignment and clarity. The adversities encountered in these moments are not accidents, but part of a divine curriculum training the chosen one to walk in authority, discernment, and divine wisdom. Favor in adversity also teaches humility. The chosen one learns that success is not solely the product of personal skill, intelligence, or effort, but of God's grace operating through faithful obedience. When challenges arise, there is a choice to rely on human reasoning, succumb to frustration, or embrace dependence on God. Those who walk in favor consistently choose the latter, acknowledging that divine empowerment, not personal cleverness, is the source of breakthrough. This humility fosters a posture that remains teachable, flexible, and receptive, allowing the chosen one to navigate both resistance and blessing with grace and integrity. Furthermore, adversity often serves to prepare the chosen one for larger influence and impact. Just as gold is refined in fire, favor is purified through trials. Opposition equips the chosen one with empathy, perspective, and resilience, qualities that are essential for leadership, mentorship, and service. The trials faced under divine favor are never wasted. They become tools to shape character, strengthen faith, and expand the capacity for enduring influence. Those who emerge from adversity demonstrate not only the reality of favor, but also its transformative power. They inspire others to trust, persevere, and align with God's purposes, magnifying the reach and impact of their calling. A key aspect of walking through opposition is maintaining focus on the divine narrative rather than immediate circumstances. Challenges can be disorienting and overwhelming if the chosen one views them solely through a human lens. However, when adversity is seen as part of a divinely orchestrated journey, it is easier to maintain faith, expectation, and alignment. This requires cultivating a mindset that perceives delay as preparation, confrontation as confirmation, and difficulty as an opportunity for divine revelation. By reframing opposition in this way, the chosen one remains steadfast, walking with courage and confidence even when the path ahead is obscured. Endurance is another critical element in navigating adversity. Favor empowers the chosen one to continue when the natural tendency would be to quit. It provides strength for the long-haul, courage for the moments of doubt, and clarity for complex decisions. The interplay between favor and endurance ensures that the chosen one is not merely surviving opposition, but thriving within it, demonstrating that divine provision is sufficient for every challenge. The ability to persevere through difficulty is both evidence of favor and a necessary mechanism for receiving the full measure of God's promises. Finally, navigating opposition underscores the importance of a purpose-driven perspective. Favor is not simply about personal gain or comfort. It is about influence, transformation, and kingdom impact. Every obstacle encountered is an opportunity to reflect divine power, display spiritual maturity, and magnify God's presence. The chosen one learns that adversity is never the enemy of favor. Rather, it is an integral part of the journey, ensuring that blessings are not only received, but also stewarded with wisdom, humility, and courage. In conclusion, walking in favor requires understanding that opposition is not a signal of failure, but a natural accompaniment to divine alignment. Resistance arises because favor challenges the ordinary and disrupts complacency both in the individual and in the surrounding environment. Through scriptural examples such as Nehemiah, the chosen one sees that favor operates even amid mockery, sabotage, and threat. Divine favor empowers endurance and equips for impact, not merely comfort or ease. By embracing purpose over circumstance, developing spiritual awareness, practicing humility, and cultivating endurance, the chosen one navigates adversity as a space for refinement, preparation, and ultimate influence. Favor is therefore revealed not only in blessing, but in the ability to rise above opposition, demonstrating that God's hand is active. His promises are true and his favor is unstoppable. Becoming a light and testimony in this world is the natural outflow of walking in God's favor. When divine favor rests on a life, it does not remain hidden or passive. It manifests visibly through character actions and the atmosphere one carries. The chosen one begins to radiate peace in chaos, faith in uncertainty, joy amid trials, and integrity in every interaction. These qualities are not accidental. They are the fingerprints of a life aligned with God's purpose, evidence of a spiritual reality that surpasses human understanding. Favor, when activated and stewarded rightly, is not merely a personal blessing. It is a visible declaration that God is working, moving, and present in tangible ways. The manifestation of favor is best understood as a light that shines from within, illuminating every aspect of the chosen one's life. It is a combination of inner posture and external expression. Internally, the chosen one cultivates trust, hope, and gratitude, acknowledging God as the source of every blessing. Externally, these qualities are visible in calm responses to adversity, thoughtful words, generous actions, and unwavering ethical conduct. The world is often quick to mistake superficial success for divine favor. But the true light of favor is found in consistency. How the chosen one moves, responds, and influences daily life, regardless of circumstance. Matthew 5:14 teaches us that the chosen are called to be a light to the world, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. This calling is not optional, but intrinsic. Favor is designed to produce influence and visibility, not secrecy or obscurity. Influence is a natural extension of being a light. As the chosen one walks in favor, others are drawn to the reflection of God's goodness. It may begin subtly, a calm word, a wise decision, a moment of encouragement. But over time, these actions accumulate into a recognizable pattern. People begin to witness favor in motion, noticing how doors open at the right time, how provision arrives in unexpected ways, and how peace persists even amid challenges. The chosen one's life becomes a testimony that communicates the reality of God's presence more powerfully than words alone. Others see that these blessings are not the product of luck, social connections, or personal merit, but of divine orchestration prompting faith, hope, and alignment in those who observe closely. Favor is also transformative because it expands beyond the individual to touch families, communities, and even nations. The light of one life aligned with God creates ripples that extend far beyond what can be seen or measured. Generations are influenced by the decisions, integrity, and faithfulness of a single vessel. By walking visibly in favor, the chosen one models what it means to live in alignment with God's principles. This generational impact is seen in examples such as Joseph, whose favor and integrity positioned him not only for personal elevation, but for the salvation of his family and the sustenance of a nation. Likewise, Esther's obedience and faith in the presence of favor elevated her to influence an entire people, demonstrating that favor is not limited to personal success, but carries a mandate for collective good. Understanding this mandate requires an internal shift in perspective. The chosen one must view favor not merely as an individual blessing, but as a tool for purpose and influence. This involves cultivating intentionality in how time, resources, words, and actions are used. Every decision becomes an opportunity to reflect God's light, every interaction a potential channel for blessing. Spiritual maturity grows when favor is coupled with accountability, discernment, and a sense of stewardship over the influence granted. The chosen one learns that favor is more than opportunity, it is responsibility. A divine trust that calls for careful and consistent alignment with God's will. The visible manifestation of favor also intersects with the principles of consistency and reliability. People recognize divine favor not in one-off events, but in the cumulative weight of repeated faithful actions. Just as Daniel demonstrated in Babylon, steadfast obedience and unwavering integrity attract not only personal blessings, but public recognition that validates God's presence. Favor becomes a testimony because it is persistent, not situational. The chosen one's light shines not only in moments of triumph, but also in times of quiet endurance, in decisions that align with God when shortcuts and compromise would be easier. This consistent alignment signals that favor is a divine reality, not fleeting fortune, and positions the chosen one as a trusted vessel for greater assignments. Another critical aspect of becoming a light is the posture of humility and grace. Favor can be misinterpreted as personal superiority if not anchored in a recognition that every blessing originates from God. The chosen one must internalize that all influence, opportunity, and authority are gifts entrusted for a purpose beyond self. This humility fosters approachability, empathy, and relational wisdom, ensuring that the favor that attracts attention also draws people toward God rather than toward ego or self-interest. Psalm 25:9 reminds us that God leads the humble in what is right, teaching them his ways. Similarly, humility ensures that favor is a conduit for righteousness, not self-promotion. When the light of favor is combined with humility, it creates an atmosphere of inspiration and trust, drawing others into alignment with divine principles. Faith remains central to the activation and maintenance of favor. Without ongoing trust and expectation, favor may remain dormant, its potential untapped. The chosen one must continually cultivate faith that God is present, that promises are personal, and that even unseen processes are working toward fulfillment. Faith sustains the light, keeping the glow steady amid challenges and ensuring that the testimony remains credible. Expectation paired with faith fuels action, enabling the chosen one to walk confidently into new opportunities, navigate adversity, and influence others without fear or hesitation. It is this combination of faith and expectation that allows favor to manifest fully as a visible, transformative light in the world. Generosity further amplifies the light and testimony of favor. The chosen one who receives favor is called to reflect it outwardly through acts of service, encouragement, and provision. Luke 6:38 emphasizes that giving leads to a multiplied blessing, reinforcing the principle that favor is designed to circulate, not stagnate. A life that reflects God's favor freely impacts the spiritual, emotional, and material well-being of those around it, turning personal blessing into a platform for kingdom impact. In practice, this might look like mentoring others, offering practical help in times of need, speaking life into circumstances, or using influence to open doors for others. Every act of outward generosity strengthens the testimony, confirming that favor is active, intentional, and divinely orchestrated. Finally, the chosen one's light is also a shield and a guide. Just as a city set on a hill cannot be hidden, the manifestation of favor serves both to protect and to illuminate the path for others. It signals divine approval and alignment, providing guidance, inspiration, and hope for those seeking direction or affirmation. By walking visibly in favor, the chosen one demonstrates that obedience, faith, and humility produce measurable results. People see the correlation between God's principles and life outcomes, reinforcing the reality that favor is both attainable and transformative when aligned with divine purpose. In conclusion, becoming a light and testimony is the culmination of walking consistently in God's favor. Favor manifests visibly through peace, faith, joy, and integrity. The chosen one becomes a city on a hill, a beacon of divine goodness whose life influences families, communities, and generations. Biblical examples such as Joseph, Esther, and Daniel illustrate how favor, when stewarded with faith, humility, and consistency, transforms not only personal circumstances but the lives of countless others. Influence flows naturally from favor, but it is disciplined by obedience, generosity, and alignment with God's will. In living this way, the chosen one embodies the principle that divine favor is not an end in itself. It is a living, breathing testimony of God's presence, power, and purpose in action. Favor becomes light, light becomes testimony, testimony becomes transformation. To walk in favor is to step boldly into a life where your existence not only reflects God's goodness, but actively invites others into it. As the chosen one walks faithfully, their life radiates. Doors open, lives are impacted, and the world witnesses the unmistakable signature of the divine at work. Living with gratitude, obedience, and expectation is not merely a spiritual exercise, it is a practical posture that continuously aligns the chosen one with God's favor and presence. These three principles, gratitude, obedience, and expectation, work in harmony to create an environment in which favor not only arrives, but thrives. Gratitude shifts the heart from scarcity to abundance, obedience anchors the life in divine alignment, and expectation positions the spirit to recognize and act upon every open door that God orchestrates. Together, they form the foundation for a life that is not reactive, but intentionally prepared to receive and steward the blessings that flow from heaven. Gratitude is the first pillar in this spiritual posture. It goes beyond casual appreciation or polite acknowledgement. It is an active daily discipline of recognizing God's goodness in every circumstance. Even in seasons of waiting, difficulty, or confusion, gratitude cultivates an awareness of the invisible ways God is moving on behalf of His chosen. This practice transforms perception, allowing the chosen one to see beyond immediate setbacks and recognize that divine orchestration is always at work. Gratitude becomes a lens through which life is interpreted, revealing that what may appear as delays, failures, or denials are in reality preparatory stages for a greater manifestation of favor. As 1 Thessalonians 5:18 reminds us, giving thanks in all circumstances is God's will, not merely a suggestion. Each moment of thanksgiving opens a spiritual channel, inviting God's presence to saturate the chosen one's environment and magnifying the effectiveness of prayers, faith, and actions. Obedience is the second pillar, the active alignment of one's actions and attitudes with God's will. Obedience is not performed out of fear or obligation. Rather, it flows from recognition of God's sovereignty and the reality that His plans are perfect and unerring. The chosen one learns to obey not just in visible acts, such as charitable giving or service, but in the subtleties of daily life decisions, words, reactions, and even private thoughts. Obedience strengthens the spiritual muscles required to carry favor responsibly. Daniel's life in Babylon exemplifies this principle. Despite being in exile surrounded by worldly temptations and under constant scrutiny, Daniel's obedience in small, seemingly mundane choices positioned him to receive divine favor that not only elevated him personally, but influenced the fate of a nation. Obedience, therefore, is the mechanism through which favor becomes sustainable and transformative rather than fleeting or superficial. Expectation is the third pillar, an inner posture that combines faith with confident anticipation. Expectation is not wishful thinking or passive hope. It is a deliberate mindset that declares God is faithful and His promises are personal and imminent. The chosen one understands that favor often operates in subtle ways unseen to the human eye, and that the spiritual posture of expectation prepares the heart to recognize and respond to divine movement. The story of the woman with the issue of blood, Matthew 9:21, provides a powerful illustration. Despite 12 years of suffering and being overlooked, her expectation led her to act in faith, reaching out to touch Jesus' garment. Her mindset was not one of desperation, but of quiet, unwavering confidence that the favor of God was already moving toward her. Expectation therefore primes the vessel, creating a spiritual and psychological readiness to receive and steward what God has prepared. Living with gratitude, obedience, and expectation also requires creating space for God's presence. This is both internal and external, a cultivation of habits, environments, and relationships that support alignment with divine purpose. Internally, it involves meditative reflection, prayer, and journaling, allowing the heart and mind to stay attuned to God's voice. Externally, it means organizing physical space-time and interactions in ways that reinforce spiritual focus rather than distraction. For instance, beginning each day with prayer and deliberate intention sets the tone for discernment, generosity, and alignment in decisions that follow. The chosen one understands that favor is not simply about the receipt of blessings. It is about the capacity to steward and amplify them. Space is created to receive God's influence so that the overflow can be shared, impacting not only the self, but family, community, and even broader spheres of influence. An essential aspect of this spiritual posture is recognizing the ongoing nature of the journey. Living with gratitude, obedience, and expectation is not a one-time event, but a lifelong commitment to alignment with God's purposes. Favor is not a static endpoint. It is dynamic, continually inviting the chosen one to deeper levels of responsibility and impact. The moment a blessing is received, the next challenge or opportunity arises, calling for the same posture of faithfulness. This ongoing journey ensures that favor becomes a lifestyle rather than a transient experience. The chosen one develops resilience and spiritual maturity, understanding that God's timing is perfect, even when human perception struggles with waiting or uncertainty. This posture also directly influences the chosen one's interactions with others. Gratitude fosters generosity, empathy, and encouragement, creating a ripple effect that amplifies the impact of favor. Obedience models integrity, trustworthiness, and faithfulness, providing a living example for others to emulate. Expectation infuses confidence and vision, encouraging those around to align with divine principles rather than merely reacting to circumstances. In this way, the chosen one becomes not only a recipient of God's favor, but a conduit through which favor flows, touching countless lives through influence, mentoring, and practical acts of service. Biblical examples abound of how this posture produces enduring impact. Joseph, for instance, combined obedience and humility during periods of apparent injustice. Slavery, false accusation, and imprisonment with an unwavering expectation that God's plan was unfolding. His gratitude in small moments and consistent alignment with divine principles positioned him for promotion and authority that transformed Egypt and preserved the lives of his family. Similarly, Esther's faith, obedience, and expectation allowed her to navigate the dangerous political landscape with wisdom and courage, ultimately fulfilling her divine purpose to save a nation. These narratives teach that living with this spiritual posture cultivates an environment in which favor is recognized, activated, and multiplied. Moreover, gratitude, obedience, and expectation cultivate resilience against adversity. The chosen one faces challenges, opposition, and spiritual resistance not as signs of abandonment, but as opportunities to exercise faith and align more deeply with God's purpose. Favor does not eliminate trials. It equips the vessel to navigate them with divine support, transforming obstacles into platforms for demonstration of God's power. The practice of gratitude reinforces awareness of unseen victories. Obedience ensures decisions remain aligned with divine wisdom and expectation, fuels perseverance, keeping the spirit poised for breakthrough. Living with this posture also shapes identity and self-perception. The chosen one begins to internalize that they are not defined by circumstances, human approval, or worldly metrics of success. Instead, their identity is anchored in divine purpose, calling, and favor. This understanding cultivates humility, confidence, and a proactive mindset. Gratitude teaches recognition of God's work in every facet of life. Obedience ensures that identity remains aligned with His will. Expectation empowers the chosen one to move boldly, anticipating the fulfillment of promises yet unseen. The result is a life that radiates divine favor naturally and consistently. Finally, this way of living encourages continuous spiritual growth. The chosen one remains teachable, open to correction, and sensitive to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Each blessing, challenge, or insight becomes an opportunity to refine character, expand influence, and deepen intimacy with God. Favor is thus not merely a transactional experience, but a relational journey that requires active participation, awareness, and intentionality. The combination of gratitude, obedience, and expectation ensures that the chosen one is ready to recognize favor, steward it responsibly, and multiply its impact across all areas of life. In conclusion, living with gratitude, obedience, and expectation is the practical posture that positions the chosen one to fully experience and steward God's favor. These three principles create a spiritual environment where divine blessings can manifest, be recognized, and be amplified. Gratitude opens the heart, obedience aligns action with purpose and expectation, primes the spirit to recognize and seize opportunities. Together, they shape character, influence others, prepare the vessel for ongoing favor, and ensure that the impact of divine blessings extends beyond the individual to families, communities, and generations. The chosen one, by cultivating this posture, becomes a living testament to the reality that favor is not accidental, fleeting, or superficial. It is a tangible reflection of God's presence, power, and purpose radiating outward to transform every life it touches. Favor, when paired with gratitude, obedience, and expectation, becomes not just a gift, but a lifestyle, a testimony, and a legacy, a visible, transformative light in the world that guides, influences, and blesses all who encounter it. As we draw this message to a close, it is essential to recognize that receiving God's favor is not a passive experience. It is an active engagement, a spiritual partnership between the chosen one and the Almighty. The conclusion of this message is not the end of your journey, but a beginning, a sacred invitation to step fully into the favor, purpose, and destiny that has been prepared for you. This moment is designed to move beyond inspiration and into activation, where your faith is declared, your alignment is confirmed, and your readiness to walk in God's favor is cemented. To fully grasp the power of this moment, we begin with a spirit-led prayer that covers every aspect of your life, invoking divine guidance, protection, provision, and alignment with God's eternal purposes. Heavenly Father, we come before you with open hearts, acknowledging that you are wholly faithful and sovereign over all creation. We thank you for choosing us not because of our strength or merit, but because of your infinite mercy and love. Lord, we lift up every one of your chosen ones listening right now, those who have been set apart from the beginning, even before their names were spoken. Father, cover them with your favor, that invisible yet powerful presence that transforms ordinary circumstances into divine opportunities. Align their steps with your will. Guide their decisions with your wisdom, and position them in the fullness of their God-given purpose. Let every delay, every trial, and every season of waiting now reveal itself as preparation for a breakthrough that is fully orchestrated by you. As we pray, understand that this is more than a traditional blessing. This is a declaration of activation. The chosen one is not called to sit idle, waiting passively for life to shift. You are invited to respond, to step into this moment with intentionality. I receive this as a bold affirmation of faith. A declaration that you are not just hearing these words, but actively aligning your spirit, heart, and mind with the promises of God. This simple act is a spiritual key, an acknowledgement that you recognize the favor surrounding you, the doors being opened, and the divine assignments awaiting your obedience. By declaring this out loud or in writing, you are participating in a spiritual activation that moves heaven and invites God's hand into every detail of your life. Favor, beloved, is more than opportunity. It is divine empowerment. It is God positioning you to navigate life in ways that cannot be explained by human logic or worldly standards. It is the strength to endure when storms rise, the peace that surpasses understanding when chaos surrounds, and the discernment to recognize the right paths and people in your journey. The chosen one must understand that favor does not always remove challenges. Rather, it transforms how you move through them. It is a mantle that carries authority, resilience, and influence. It elevates not only your life, but also the lives of those around you, your family, your community, and generations to come. In receiving God's favor, you are also stepping into responsibility. This is not about entitlement, nor is it a call to self-centered accumulation. Rather, favor is a tool for divine purpose. It is a vehicle to bless others, to sow seeds of hope, and to advance God's kingdom on earth. When your life is aligned with God's design, the overflow of His favor spills into relationships, finances, opportunities, and spiritual influence. As Luke 6:38 teaches, giving leads to receiving, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Your obedience, generosity, and faithfulness serve as conduits for multiplying the blessings God places in your hands. This is the essence of kingdom stewardship. The more you release what you have been entrusted with, the more favor and abundance God entrusts to you. It is also essential to remember that divine favor is not limited to personal gain. It has a cascading effect influencing every sphere of your life and those connected to you. As the chosen one walks in alignment, the family lineage, the workplace, and the community are all touched. generational blessings are activated. Cycles of lack are interrupted, and the atmosphere of divine provision begins to saturate every environment you enter. Favor is never selfish. It is always communal, always relational, and always purposed to reflect the character and goodness of God. Your life becomes a living testimony of His faithfulness, a beacon to those still searching for light, and a channel through which hope flows. This moment of prayer is also an opportunity to invite divine protection. Favor often attracts resistance. Spiritual opposition challenges and distractions arise because the enemy recognizes what God is orchestrating through your life. Isaiah 54:17 reminds us that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. As you declare readiness to receive, you also activate divine shielding, a spiritual covering that guards your mind, heart, and actions. You are not alone in this journey. God walks beside you. His presence goes before you, and His wisdom guides your steps. Every obstacle is transformed from a threat into a proving ground where the power of His favor is revealed. The act of declaring "I receive this" is also a powerful engagement of faith. Faith is the activation key for all divine promises. It does not require perfection or a flawless record of obedience. It requires trust, a trust that God sees, knows, and orchestrates every detail. Faith opens doors that human effort cannot, moves the hand of God in unseen realms, and positions the chosen one to step into rooms of opportunity, favor, and destiny that were previously inaccessible. Expectation accompanies faith. It is the quiet, unwavering confidence that God's promises are not only true, but also personal and imminent. This expectation sets the tone for your spiritual posture, shaping your thoughts, actions, and perception of circumstances. Engaging with this prayer and declaration also reinforces the principle of continual growth. The chosen one is invited to remain teachable, humble, and generous. Subscribe to this channel or follow Spirit-led guidance as part of your ongoing spiritual development. Each message, each moment of reflection, and each act of faith contributes to building a life that mirrors the fullness of God's favor. The chosen one is not merely receiving blessings for personal comfort. They are walking in a lifestyle of divine impact, extending the favor they receive into tangible, meaningful outcomes for others. Finally, understand that God's favor is enduring. It is not a fleeting moment, a temporary boost, or an isolated event. It is a continuous presence, flowing into every aspect of your life, manifesting through your decisions, your resilience, your generosity, and your influence. You are seen, you are loved, you are chosen. The favor of God is not only for you, it extends outward, touching everyone your life interacts with. As you live in alignment with gratitude, obedience, and expectation, you become a beacon of hope, a testimony of divine faithfulness, and a vessel through which God's goodness is made manifest in the world. Therefore, as you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and engage fully in this Spirit-led prayer, know that you are stepping into activation. Your declaration of faith, your readiness to receive, and your commitment to alignment are the keys that unlock a new season. Every day is now an opportunity to walk in favor, to manifest purpose, and to bless others through the overflow of divine provision. This is the lifestyle of the chosen, the reality of God's favor, and the beginning of a transformative journey that touches generations. Heavenly Father, we seal this prayer in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. May your favor rest upon us, multiply in our lives, and flow outward in blessing to everyone we encounter. Strengthen our hearts to walk in obedience, our spirits to remain expectant, and our hands to release generosity in all things. Let our lives testify to your goodness, presence, and faithfulness. Amen. With this prayer, dear chosen one, you have not only received encouragement, but have actively participated in activating God's favor in your life. Declare boldly, "I receive this." Walk forward with confidence, humility, and gratitude, knowing that you are a vessel of divine favor, empowered to impact the world, extend blessing to others, and reflect God's glory in everything you do. The journey has only just begun, and the best is yet to come.